Ashe family, welcome back to another episode of My Unapologetic Perspective. This is the podcast where we give our point of view on controversial topics from my experience, Black history, and our knowledge as African Americans. Black history presently lives in us so we can continue to excel into the future. It's one thing to know Black history. It's another thing to take advantage of what the people in Black history did for you. I am your host, Martre Baker Stevens, and to the right of me is my brother, Shaquan Battle.
Yep.
And to the right of him is our father, Jerome Battle.
What's up?
Appreciate all the love and support we've been getting. I've been having people stop me in the store, telling me how much they love our podcast. People just telling me, where's the next episode? I love what y'all doing. That means a lot. I mean, I went into a store a few weeks ago, and I was held up for like 30 minutes just talking about the stuff that we talk about on our podcast. And she was like, I don't mean to hold you up. And I'm like, nah, this is what we do. And we enjoy these type of conversations. That's the reason why we started the podcast, for these type of conversations. Right. But how are y'all?
Good. It's been a minute since we recorded.
Yeah.
Happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Appreciate y'all. This world would be nothing without each and every one of y'all.
Yeah, we were going to record last Sunday, and they didn't tell me it was Mother's Day. And my wife was like, y'all doing what? So
I thought you was being brave.
So we would have been back a week earlier, but they were ready. They was pussy.
I said, when you said it, I was like, oh, he brave.
I didn't even think about it. But where would y'all like to start? And let me just say this. It's a lot of stuff that we missed. A lot of stuff that's been covered over the last month or so. Some of it I'm glad we did miss, because I didn't want to harp on certain topics that I feel like everybody else is harping on. Yeah. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of people have already harped on a lot of these topics. So if you're expecting us to just talk about the Carmelo Anthony situation, we may touch on it, but a lot of this stuff we're not going to blatantly just continue to cover because it's already been done by the rest of the social media and all these other people.
Podcast and ran Shador them into the ground.
I got somewhere I want to start.
But Pop's got somewhere you want to start?
Yeah, I got somewhere I want to start.
Let's rock.
Georgia. Georgia.
No. I want to start here. I mean, it's been a rough few years. You guys know that. you guys know that. And most people didn't think it could happen.
Oh my God, I knew.
Not this day and time. Not with the Carrot Group of assembled men, right? With the so-called politics and conspiracy theories. Most people didn't think it could happen. I mean, I'm one of them. I didn't think it could happen. I didn't believe it could happen. Who would have thought that the reigning defending champions, Boston Celtics, would be taken down by the New York Knicks?
Got the shirt on.
Stand up, New York.
Oh my gosh.
That's right. It's a little tight.
Turn to your camera.
It's a little tight.
Turn to your camera.
And it's a little wrinkle.
Go New York. Go New York. Go.
It's a little tight, little wrinkle. But the New York Knicks, the New York Knickerbockers.
Y'all are really crazy.
And here's the thing. Really let's just say this too. It's unfortunate that Jason Tatum went down.
Right.
It's unfortunate. But the Knicks was up 113 to 104 at that time. Yeah. And Brunson was cooking. And it's unfortunate that Porzingis wasn't 100%. I think he had food poisoning or something in game one. Something was wrong with him because he wasn't himself.
He's been sick for the
last
But if
that was Jalen Brunson who went down, nobody in America other than New York Knicks fans would have gave a damn. Stand up, New York.
Oh my God.
Stand up.
If they win a championship, they're going to burn that damn city.
Stand up.
Stand
up, New York.
Y'all are wild.
And that's really why I don't want New York to win a championship, because look what they do after they win a game.
It's good for basketball. Yeah. Though. I believe it's good whenever, and it's not a sports podcast, but whenever the Knicks, the Lakers, the Boston Red Sox, the Dallas Cowboys, whenever those big-time market teams are winning, it is good for sports because their fan base are annoying as shit. But Knicks fans do deserve this because it's been a long time coming. Because
some of us, the John Stockstick asshole.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm tired of and they shouldn't have interviewed. What the hell are they interviewing John Stocks for? Why are you interviewing John Stocks? Nobody want to hear from you. We love you, Patrick Ewing. We love the Monkey Man, but you missed the finger roll against the Indiana Pacers. We're not gonna dunk the damn basketball, right? All right. So we don't want to hear Larry Johnson. You could talk all day long. We love you, brother. We love you.
I think for me, watching this Knicks run, you've heard in the past, you've heard a lot about the ownership, about, you know, black people, letting black people in, and seeing just all of the former players sitting there all together courtside cheering on. And like the other night, the TV, we wasn't at the game, but I felt like I had to turn the TV down because it was so loud.
That's right. Shout out to the Knicks. Like, shout out to the Knicks. Because y'all didn't do it through the draft. Like, just seeing some of y'all old starting lineups with Tim Hardaway Jr. and Kyle Quinn and some of those people.
It's been embarrassing.
Yeah, it's been
That's
bad.
why the Knicks fans go crazy, because it's embarrassing. I mean, I was talking to the other guy the other day, back when Carmelo Anthony played for the Nuggets, and Isaiah Thomas was coaching the Knicks.
That's when you had Quentin Richardson.
And J.R. Smith was going to get ready to do a Showtime dunk in the Garden, and Isaiah Thomas was like, "We're not having it," and hard fouled him, and I think Marty Collins or somebody like that, and Carmelo Anthony punched Marty Collins. And the thing is, when he punched him, everybody was wondering, like, who's going to do something? When the Knicks had Marty Collins and Jared Jeffries.
Mm-hmm.
The
Right.
Nuggets had Kenya Martin. I mean, what were they going to do? Just the Knicks have been soft for many years. And they made some, you know, John Starks. I mean, the best thing he ever did, he dunked backwards on Jordan one time. One time. That doesn't make you a great player. You got to win that championship, man.
You hate John Starks.
Hate him. Hate the brother, man. You know.
Shout out to the Knicks. Shout out, it's gonna be interesting with that Indiana series with Spike Lee and Indiana
Reggie Miller.
Reggie Miller.
You know, 8 points in 9 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, the only way to get over that is we got to beat them. That's the only way to make that go away.
Big, I got a question for you.
What's up?
Ish from the Joe Budden podcast a few weeks ago said that black people don't deserve reparations or shouldn't get reparations because of they don't have financial literacy. So they just gonna spend it and give it back to Cadillac and all. You know the fun narratives that, you know, people like to say.
Yeah.
On such a huge platform such as the Joe Budden podcast, should he have said that?
I mean, I don't have a problem with people speaking their mind and being honest about what they believe could happen. The thing is, when it comes to distributing money, particularly with reparations or for any type of wrongdoing, nobody gives a damn what you're going to do with it. Mm-hmm. That's not the point of you getting the money. If I win a lawsuit and the judge says, technically you should win $200 million, but I'm not going to give you $200 million because I don't think you're in a position to know what to do with $200 million. That's not his fucking place to say. If the $200 million is awarded to me, what I do with it has absolutely nothing to do with you. So, for the most part, yeah, for a lot of black people don't have financial literacy to be able to do what they need to do with money. But what is the reason why black people don't have financial literacy? Mm-hmm. Because most of us live in poverty. Most of our generations before us never had any type of wealth. So, yes, we don't have financial literacy because we never had it before. So the fact that when we should get money or when we should be paid a debt owed, what we do with it is none of your business. If we give it back to white America, so be it. But if you think about it, if the foundational black Americans that got reparations, if 10% or 20% do the right thing with it, that do have financial literacy, it does not matter what the other 80% are doing because it would change the financial stability of America just by those 10% and those 20% of people. What we do with it is nobody else's business. So I don't like that point. And to say that we don't deserve it, most people think that reparations is just about slavery, when it's not. Reparations is about slavery and everything that happened after slavery that cost us chances to have wealth in this country. So from slavery, they made money and they was able to build the economy of America based off of slaves. Then after the Reconstruction period, they were able to make money based off mass incarceration, servitude, all of those things in the South where they basically benefited from. They were able to do that. And a lot of wealth that was given to black people were taken back away from them after the Reconstruction period. It's also due to the housing discrimination. Things that if we were awarded some of this land and some of these houses in the 1900s, they would be worth a lot of amount of money today that we weren't able to get based off of redlining, that we weren't able to purchase, right? It's also due to the mass incarceration, wrongful incarcerations. We know what happened with the crack era, where they dropped guns and drugs in our neighborhoods. It has a lot to do with the way that we've been treated in this country that stopped us from getting to that wealth. So it has absolutely nothing to do with what we do with it. The fact that we deserve it, it's not your point to tell me you don't like what we'll be able to do with it, so we shouldn't get it. That does not make sense. If somebody win the lottery, they don't take the lottery away because you're poor and say we don't know what you're going to do with the money.
Right.
That does not make sense at all.
You know, Malcolm X said one time that when we look at leaders in the black community, you look back in the 60s, like Lena Horne and Dick Gregory. He said the white community never had a white leader that was a comedian or a comic or a singer or a dancer or a baseball player. Only in the black community and non-white, because Hispanics do the same thing. They'll take a boxer that was famous and make him president of Mexico or mayor of a town in Mexico. They're the only ones that do. We're the only ones that do that. White America doesn't do that. Mm-hmm. We look to the wrong people as leaders. When I think about when Jesse Jackson ran for president, most people, if you didn't know about him, you at least heard him speak before, and he had flair. Black people like flair. Mm-hmm. There are some people who won't admit it today, but there are some people today that voted for Donald Trump because he talks shit. Black people like people who talk shit. Mm-hmm. When Obama first said he was running for president, most people didn't know who the fuck he was. They couldn't even pronounce his name. Mm-hmm. Right. It wasn't until they heard him speak that it was like, oh yeah, he got flair. That's what we like. We like people with flair. Even if you go all the way back to Fred Hampton, what made Fred Hampton unique? It's the way he spoke. You know, we all know, even when you watch the movie, the most powerful part of the movie is when he say, what he said, when you can kill a liberator, but you can't kill liberation. You can kill a revolutionary, but you can't kill revolution. You can kill a freedom fighter, but you can't kill freedom. We like that shit. See, we're motivated. We're moved by that type of shit. Mm-hmm. So when we listen to rappers who decide that they want to talk about politics or a celebrity, whether they're a movie celebrity or a TV star or whatever, sports, when it comes to professional sports, we love them because of how they make us feel. So then we listen to them and we go, oh shit, yeah, I like that shit.
Yeah.
But we don't have to know what the fuck they talking about. Mm-hmm. Neither do the person that's talking.
Right. And with a lot of these podcasts, that's what exactly is. It's a lot of talking. A lot of people who claim to be educated. And I'm not harping on Ish. I do think Ish is an educated person on that podcast. But some of his points is based off of, I hate to say this, it's based off of the way he lives his life. Mm-hmm. He has a white girlfriend. And a lot of times when black men are dating white women, they take on some of the ideologies of white America without even knowing it. And I don't think that's acceptable in our community, which leads me to my topic, which is I'm going to use the word sellouts. And the reason why I'm going to use the word sellouts is because I believe most of them are getting paid to say the things that they say or do the things that they do. But there are a lot of black people who use social media to attack the black community for racist white people. The things that white people can't say, they get these token black people to come on cameras and say. They pay them to do so, right? This has nothing to do with politics for me. Okay? I think that you can be a black conservative and really feel like your political views is better for black people than the liberal side. I'd also believe there are some things about the Democratic Party that people believe is best for black people. It has nothing to do with politics. You can be a black conservative and be for black people in the black community and growing and whatever the case may be. But it is the ones who mostly wear those Make America Great Again shirts and hats that's Trump this, Trump that, and treat him like a slave master and they become the mouthpiece to defend white supremacy, right? And it allows for their white followers to say, see, this black person said this about y'all, so it's true, right? So, and again, this is not about politics, but when you see somebody like Donald Trump who wants to erase black people from certain places, certain books, certain educational opportunities, change words and narratives of history, of the way that black history is taught. They say, yeah, because we shouldn't be talking about slavery anymore because we were never slaves. So we shouldn't talk about it anymore. That was hundreds of years ago. Nobody alive today was a slave, so we shouldn't talk about it no more. Then there's no point in talking about none of history, right? When the darker skinned immigrants get taken away and deported, and we're talking about people who work, we're talking about people who've been here a while and raised families here. Some of them even pay taxes. But if you're a pale skin, you get welcomed with open arms because their supremacy is being targeted or threatened in places like South Africa, where they live to try to balance the inequalities from the apartheid of South Africa. But of course, they welcome those who benefit off of colonizing black people, because we all know they voted for Donald Trump, but Elon Musk is controlling what Donald Trump is doing, whose family is from South Africa, who are part of these rich people who've built their wealth on top of black land. And they say, well, I don't think, Donald Trump said, well, I don't think if I see people in distress, I don't care what color, what they look like, or what anything, their size, their height, their eyes, I don't care. What was the purpose of him saying that? If you wanted to bring those South Africans over, what was the point of you saying, I don't see color? Because obviously we see that these motherfuckers are white.
And it was intentional. It
was intentional. And whites over there still own 3/4 of private land and about 20 times the wealth of the black majority in South Africa. And they try to say that they've been targeted for genocide, which is 1,000% not true. There's just been about 50 deaths over the last year or so.
Compared to the deaths of the blacks in South Africa.
Exactly. You know, and Donald Trump is also revoking equal employee opportunities that hurts the black community.
That's the EOE.
And the first thing that the sellouts saying, well, black people need to go out and get jobs. They need to start working. That's why the family ain't structured right, because they can't get a job. Well, you're taking away equal employee opportunity when we know that statistics show if a black person and a white person went up for a job, even if the black person is more qualified, the white person is more likely to get the job. This also has nothing to do with black people calling out black behavior, black culture, or black community. We do this on this podcast. We are accountable to the things that we don't like in our community and in our culture and in some of our traits, right? That we've picked up or whatever. But we must be accountable for the things that are happening in our society. We understand that. But these sellouts are in the black community attempting to help. They're standing on the white people's porch and said, look at those black people over there. Look at their communities. Look at their children. Look at this. And not acting like they're not black, right? They're not mentoring black kids. They're not coaching black kids. They're not running for city council in these black communities. They're not starting black businesses or donating to black businesses or helping black schools. They're just simply talking about everything that's wrong with the black community, but not helping. But in return, you try to act like there are not black programs in these black communities where people are out here trying to stop the violence. where people are trying to control the guns, where people are trying to educate people to help them get to college, when people are trying to get black kids to start their own businesses. They act like this is not happening in the community and that black people are just saying, well, we're okay with killing each other. We're okay with robbing from each other. We're okay with the crime rate, which is not true. But it makes America think, white America think, that black people don't hold themselves accountable when they don't come to the black community and see the people who are working within the black community to try to change things. Right. Even though some of it is systematic, they're still trying to change it, right? They always say, where's the black outrage when another black person kills another black person, or a black person kills a white person? That doesn't need to be outrage. Normally they're arrested, charged,
facts,
convicted, sentenced very quickly. The outrage comes when this happens. We see video and that motherfucker at home. Mm-hmm. And we got to march and protest and create this violence type of scenarios to get y'all to go arrest the person. When the prosecutor is out trying to do backdoor deals to try to keep people from being arrested, like the Ahmaud Arbery situation, mm-hmm. right? But if you go back and look at a lot of these content creators, go back and look at their early videos, right? They were usually talking about something else and then landed on something that talked about the black community or black culture, and white people made it go viral. And then they start liking it, mm-hmm. right? And now that's all your content is because you got some traction. They may have gave you a bag. They may have made you popular, and you went and took the bag because of this video going viral, right? It's like the slave master syndrome, right? If he go to a slave and he pat him on the head, he give him special privileges, he show him that you're different from all the other slaves that I got, you start to act like you the slave master when the slave master ain't around, right? Like the Hodge twins, who are mixed, but in a lot of their old videos, they talked about being black, right? They used to do workout videos. And then they made a video talking about being conservatives. And then all of a sudden, that's all they talk about. Mm-hmm. I ain't seen them pick up a motherfucking weight in years. You know what I mean? When you look at so-called Officer Tatum, right? Who was an athlete or whatever. But you didn't see him until he started talking about Colin Kaepernick. He started questioning Colin Kaepernick, taking a knee. White people started to agree with him. Then all of a sudden, his fan base became these white conservatives, and that's all he talk about, right? That's all his content is if a black person gets shot, let me show you why this video is justified, so I can show my white conservatives that I'm their boy, right? When you look at Candace Owens, if you've seen in the last year or so, Candace Owens' speech has changed a little bit. Mm-hmm. Her topics have changed a little bit.
Which we said was going to happen.
Yeah. It's because she no longer getting that bag from the other side, and now she's talking a little differently, right? Jason Whitlock. I ain't heard Jason Whitlock make a sports analysis that I ain't heard him talk about the game or nothing. It's always some conservative or some backlash about the black community.
He should have been number one on your list.
It should have been. Now, Stephen A goes off on a tantrum and talk about other things other than sports within the sports, which is fine. But also, Stephen A. Smith he don't lie about telling you how much he get paid.
Right.
And what ESPN is paying him to do. Right? But a lot of these people, man, they get on these platforms and they get a little traction, and I don't like coon is a word because a lot of them are coons, but sellouts is because I feel like a lot of them are getting paid to do the things that they do. And it's an African saying that says, the child who was not embraced by the village would burn it down to feel its warmth. Now I don't know if the black women call these black men ugly back in the day, that they ain't fit in with the cool kid, the black cool kids. They ain't have no rhythm. They couldn't play sports. They couldn't fit in with the black community. So they start acting white or thinking that they was white. But I just want to say, man, you don't have to be a sellout, man, because When these white people say that I have a black friend, they talking about you.
Yeah.
Somebody that they can say their racist jokes in front of. Somebody who they can go in front of and say all of these statistical things and all of these stereotypical things because they know you're going to nod your head, go along to get along. And they use you. They don't laugh with you. They laugh at you. When you not around, guess what? You still a nigga. You there, nigga, but you still a nigga at the end of the day. And I just hate seeing some of these people get on these platforms, man, and say the most outlandish shit because they might be getting the bag. Like stereotypes, like there was on that panel with that Mark Lamont Hill was on with they was daring the white woman to say nigga on jump.
And she says it all the time.
And Myron, who's not even from this country, who moved here and then took on a black name to try to act like he was a foundational black American, said that rich black people don't want to live around other black people. White rich people don't want to live around poor white people.
Right.
Like what are we talking about? If a black person don't want to live around other black people, it's because they probably have more money than them and they don't want to get their shit stolen. That has nothing to do with color. It has everything to do with wealth. Black people aren't afraid to live around other black people. They talk about government assistance. Nobody is on more government assistance than white people.
Section 8, all of that.
Stop, like cut it out. Y'all do the same tricks too. Y'all work and get food stamps. Stop fucking lying, bro. They always talk about build your schools. We've talked about there is $1 million of gap between the funding that the white schools get and the black schools get. And they even trying to change it even more with the charter schools and these private schools where they try to separate black and white a little bit more. The idea that fathers aren't in their children's lives is a myth. Yes, the black household may be different. It may be a single parent household, but you can't deny that black fathers aren't there because statistics shows that black fathers spend more time with their children, eat with their children, study with, do homework with their children, and do activities with their children more than any other ethnic group. Black fathers are there. Just because the courtroom makes it mandatory where they only get them a few days out the week or whatever the case may be, doesn't mean that they're not active in their life. Do right and the police won't bother you is another stereotype. Statistics show that that's not true. You can be driving and black people are pulled over more than any other ethnic group. And they're least likely to find something on us than any other ethnic group when pulled over. You know, the difference between us and other nationalities, white people are racist towards Mexicans. They're racist towards Latinas or any other racial ethnic groups, the Koreans or Chinese, Asians, whatever the case may be. But we the only ones, black people, foundational black Americans, who will call white people out on their bullshit. Mm-hmm. That's the reason why they don't like us for a minute, because we not just gonna sit around and let y'all say anything that y'all want to say or do whatever y'all want to do.
Dad said it about Herschel Walker. What was it, 3 years ago? Mm-hmm. Hey, dog, you doing all of this, and then when the election over, they gonna forget about your dumb ass.
They gonna forget about.
But it's the same, you know, sports. Comparing it to sports analogy is, I didn't know who Skip Bayless was until he started making it about LeBron.
Yeah.
When he got the traction. But yeah, it's funny because I had just seen your TikTok this morning when you had all of them on there.
Because they keep popping up on my For You page.
You know what else I hate about the sellouts? What they cause is they cause that issue that Malcolm X was talking about when we start looking at comedians and athletes and celebrities as spokespeople for the black community, because you have to have somebody that counter the Jason Whitlocks. Mm-hmm. You have to have somebody counter the Herschel Walkers. You have to have somebody counter those, and more people know who Jared Jeffries is than Hakeem Jeffries. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which is weird, because if you didn't like the Knicks, you would probably never know who Jared Jeffries is, or the Wizards, because I think he played for you guys too at one point. You know, so but more people know who that guy is than Hakeem Jeffries. And you're like, how's that happen? Because black people don't necessarily pay attention to politics. but we pay attention to a few categories that we feel are important to us, which is music, sports, and celebrity status, which along comes with those three things is fashion. Those are the things we pay attention to. So it's easy for people to talk that's in one of those groups to get the attention of black people. But none of those people, in most cases, are of the people. Celebrities would be more of the people than the people like Jason Whitlock and people like that, because they're having to deal with it. So when we think about sports, you think about Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson could obviously talk about discrimination and racism because he dealt with it every day that he went to work on the baseball field. So he could talk to you about it from an experience of his own. So, but most cases, the people aren't of the people. Again, one of the most powerful statements that I heard from Fred Hampton was, I don't believe I'm going to die in no car wreck. I don't believe I'm going to die slipping on no ice.
Yeah.
I don't believe I'm going to die in no bad heart. I'm going to die doing what I was born for, which is the love of the people. But do you think Jason Whitlock is saying what he's saying because he loved the people?
No.
You think Herschel Walker was saying what he was saying because he loved the people?
No.
Of course not. They don't love the people.
And that goes back to what you were saying about some of these celebrities. You look at a Bill Russell, who loved the people, who in the middle of playing for Boston, was active in the civil rights movement, living in Boston. You know what I mean?
That's right.
High racism Boston. When you think about what Dick Gregory gave up as a comedian, being one of the most highest paid comedians at the time, and gave it up to go do work in the civil rights movement.
That's right.
You even think of what Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did as converting to Islam and changing his name, like their dedication. Well, Muhammad Ali, I mean, the list goes on of the dedication of the athletes who come from a certain cloth and grinded their way to the top. They do speak for the people because they understand the people more so than a lot of people who may be politicians who, again, sometimes to be a politician, you doing a little bit of selling out. Because especially when you talk about some of these political parties, there are some things that you have to sacrifice to be able to do some of the things that you do.
Yeah. The other thing, we do a lot of judgments. We make a lot of judgments on people. And I'll give you a really good one. And I know I'm going to offend some people that's watching this podcast because I've had conversations with them before regarding this. Is that when there was a lot of people were boycotting certain stores, Target, Walmart, whatever, any of the stores that got rid of the DEI program. So a lot of black people were boycotting them. And they was like, are you still going to Walmart? Well, and there's a legitimate question. Is your kid still going to public school?
Shit.
If your child's still going to public school, then you can't criticize me for going to Walmart because public schools got rid of their DEI programs as well.
Yeah.
So you have to think about this in totality. The other thing is if you put on a dashiki and you know a little bit of African lingo and you got on some African beads or pearls or whatever, that doesn't make you of the people just because you do that. Another great quote from the movie is when Fred Hampton was giving a speech and he saw some people from Malcolm X College and Dr. Charles Hertz was a director from Howard. He said, Malcolm X College, I can dig it. Dr. Charles Hertz, director from Howard, right on. So what? You think the students over there are going to be free now?
Oh, they let you change the name of your college?
Oh, they'll let you change the name of the college or your own name or throw a dashiki on. Because guess what? They still going to drag your black ass to Vietnam to shoot a poor rice farmer or get your ass shot as well. Ain't nothing going to change. Reform is just the masters teaching the slaves how to be better slaves. That's the reform. Under reform, you can take a motherfucking masters out and the slaves still be doing all the work for them. That's a known fact. Remember on this podcast, I talked about the experiment they did with the monkeys. And they put the banana at the top. And every time they would climb up, try to get the banana, they would spray them with water. And then they would swap out a monkey. After a while, they never had to spray the water because they never climbed up to get the banana. So you remove the master, and that slave is still gonna do the work.
Yeah.
That's how this thing works, man. The thing is at the beginning of this podcast, you said that the economic development of this country was based on slavery.
Yes.
What do most people say the problem with the United States is? They won't say racism. What they say is capitalism. Capitalism. It's all about money. What Donald Trump is doing right now in this whole administration, it's partly about race, but it's mostly about money. The best thing you can do regarding race is bring up one race by what? Elevating them financially.
But a lot of times when you talk about capitalism in a sense, and this goes along with the South African reference or even in America, then when you start talking about wealth, it kind of equates to race too, because we know
it has
that
to.
the top half that owns most of the world are not people of color.
It's going to always come back to race. But how do you manipulate the race financially? It starts with education, because without education, you don't get the money. We've said that from day one on this podcast. And when you were talking about how, what are you going to do with the money? Yeah, that's your issue. However, if you want to develop financial gain and create some type of what they call generational financial institutions or wealth, how do you do that? You got to be educated on how to manage your money. And the one thing that they never wanted black people to be was educated. They don't really give a fuck if you're rich. They just don't want you to be educated and rich, because you know what you're going to do? You're going to help other people. You're going to help other blacks. They don't want that.
Yeah.
They don't want that.
Yeah.
So sometimes I just think about what goes on every day in politics is they get you looking at one thing and they doing 20 other things behind the scenes that you're not even aware of what's happening. When you think about Donald Trump and them said that they want to protect everybody's freedom of speech, except yours, right? So your freedom of speech is considered woke. Can't do it. Their freedom of speech is considered white. I can say it all day long. And the thing is he's going to be able to achieve some of those things out of one simple fact. It's not fear. Money.
Yeah.
If you don't do what I say, then you ain't getting the money. He's even threatening governors of certain states that have disasters. We ain't giving you the money unless you quit them DEI programs.
And that's the thing that most people was, champion the HBCUs being able to get some money. So they take away the federal funding.
That's right.
And now you're going to have to basically get your money through elsewhere, which means if a HBCU goes to certain places to get money, they're going to have say-so in what happens with their money. When it was the federal loans happening, you don't have a say-so. So now if Donald Trump does away with the federal system and now these HBCUs get this money,
that's right,
then now we can control what it is that you're teaching in that school. And you're losing a lot of control of what happens. So the money, again, a lot of times when you get money, it comes with selling out.
Absolutely. One last thing, just a little known Black history fact that I think is important.
Yeah, I just got one more thing and then I'm good.
So I just want to get this off too, because this also pertains to how change happened, but it was due to the amount of money that's generated. We always talk about people always say, well, why do you guys always bring up the first black to do something? Because it's still astonishing that as often as things have happened over the course of 400 years that we're still talking about the first black. But I want to talk about something a little bit different. On May 17th, 1875, jockey Oliver Lewis won the first ever Kentucky Derby. And why would I mention that on this podcast? Well, you guessed it. He wasn't the first black. He was the first person.
Yeah.
He won the very first Kentucky Derby. Also, 13 of the 15 jockeys were black.
That goes back to the history of when it came to working with the horses or any type of cattle or any type of domestic animal.
That's right.
The black people were in charge of that.
And that was 1875. 1875. And of course, that changed as that became one of the biggest forms of revenue generating in terms of gambling in the United States.
And then they
then you can't find a black jockey.
Yeah, then they did away with that. I got one last thing. It is there's a graduation video circulating of in a black school where after they graduate, they're dancing or whatever the case may be, and a lot of the black sellouts said, that's what's wrong with black culture. Why would y'all embarrass y'all self like that to do that? And then, at first I kind of agree. At first I kind of was like, yeah. Then I started to think about it a little bit more. Some people don't understand our culture, right? And there's another video of a Samoan family in this country, and they came to a family member's graduation, and they made a lot of noise of doing whatever is in their culture, doing it, and to the point where they were kicked out, and then they went out in the hallway and they still continued to cheer, but it was a part of their culture. White America tries to make black people feel bad about our own culture so many times by calling it ghetto or ratchet or whatever the case may be. We shouldn't allow them to diminish what we do.
That's right.
Right? If a group of black people who just graduated want to dance, and that's their way of expressing themselves as it's been in our history, there's absolutely 100% no problem with that. Actually, it's a beautiful thing to see. If Samoans want to come to a graduation and signify their culture, there's 100% no problem with that. Because if white people want to do things their way, nobody would ever say a word about it.
That's right.
But our culture always has to be total line between what white people will like and what white people don't like, or what they understand and what they don't understand. Like, sometimes it's not about race, it's about culture.
Right.
And I want to do something that I've never seen anybody else do, but I want to do it. Have you ever read the critic reviews on black movies? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, if you look at black movies that we call classics, look at the rating of the movie. A lot of times it's still not scored great.
Unless it's a movie that shows blacks in a negative light, like Training Day.
Right.
Like Training Day got a great review from those critics because it showed Denzel Washington playing the bad guy.
Exactly. But and a lot of times I base a lot of what if I see something I want to watch, I'll go to the reviews and I'll look at the score it gives, and I'm like, is this worth my time or not? If it's 5 out of 10, I'm not watching it because it's probably not worth my time. Now I got to realize I got to stop doing that, because a lot of people who score these movies are people who are not culture based in what we do for the movie. One of the hood classics or comedy classics in black culture is probably Friday, right? Most people would agree that Friday is a hilarious movie, and a lot of people in the black community love it. The Philadelphia Daily said director F. Gary Gray chooses to develop tension in this often over-the-top farce in a very unfunny, almost baffling way. Another wrote, while the character-driven script has a weakness for toilet humor, its inhabitants are given some oddball quirks and tics that keep things percolating when the plot develops run a little thin. Meanwhile, this is a movie that Ice Cube developed out of his own pocket. I knew the picture was in trouble when his first gag involved an old lady spewing obscenities. Which, in black culture,
Yes.
a black woman that goes to church doesn't mean that she doesn't go cuss you out either. Right? Let's look at the movie Life, which another people would consider a comedy classic movie. Right? You got all your Martin Lawrence, Eddie Murphy, Bernie Mac, a lot of the classic comedy people in there. A popular magazine wrote, face it, folks, Eddie Murphy just isn't funny anymore. Another wrote, this is an unfunny mess. The New York Post wrote, this prison drama, muddled episodic script seems to have gone on a hunger strike for humor. The latest movie Sinners that people are raving about. The Wall Street Journal wrote, the great sin of Sinners is that for all of the audacity of its conception, it finally collapses into the familiar. Real Films reviews an ambitious and distinct failure. Another wrote, Sinners aims to be symbolic and deep in its treatment of social conventions, but a messy structure and a lack of proper characters don't let the movie stick the landing. These are movies that black people would say are classic, that white America doesn't necessarily understand or can understand. So a lot, again, goes back to what we were saying, that a lot of things just not about race, it's about culture. I remember Mike Epps did an interview and he said that he was on the set of what's the movie where they get drunk and forget what they before a wedding, but Mike Epps was in. I can't think of the name of it, but he said it was an all white cast, and he said, the director said action. He just started doing his comedy bit that most black people would have been dying laughing about. He said after he finished, all the white people looking at him like, yo, what are you doing? And he had to realize that black comedy and white comedy were two totally different things. Again, it's not always about race, it's about culture. But we appreciate all the love and support we've been getting. We love y'all. See you next time. Peace.